Hey guys, what's up? I'm Sandra. Welcome back to Camonia Designs. Today, if you're a brand new Procreate user, a brand new iPad owner, and Apple Pencil, this video is for you. So I'm gonna show you my favorite 10 tips to get you started if you're a brand new Procreate user. So if you'd like to learn how to do digital art, and if you want to know all the little tips and tricks that trip up all the beginners, which they did to me, but you are going to benefit from my experience and avoid all of that and get you drawing right away. So just keep watching and let's get started. So tip number one is how you can create a custom size canvas. So when you start the program, you're going to be in the main gallery, and the plus sign at the top right corner will show you a series of preset canvas sizes. You can make your own by clicking the plus sign at the top, and this is where you'll enter all the parameters for the size of your canvas, the DPI. But just as an FYI, the higher the size of your canvas, the less number of layers you're going to have. So depending on what project you're making, you might want to double check them before you actually start working and making your drawings. Let's get started and look at tip number 2. So you have these brushes at the top of the screen. This is what you use to make your drawing. The first one is just your brush tool. The second is your smudge tool, and the third here is just an eraser. And you'll notice that all three of them have the same exact brushes. What I use is the sketching 6B pencil for my underlaying image. Then I use an inking like there, what I made, and then I finish it off with color that I use the script calligraphy brush to do, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. One really cool thing you can do in the brush library is customize a brush. So I created a custom stamp of my signature so I don't forget to sign my work, because I kind of do that all the time. But essentially you can click the plus button and draw up whatever you want in here and save it as a brush. So I linked in the description the tutorial that I used to create mine, but it'll be the same way to create a custom brush. But essentially when you're in this library, you can edit brushes that you're using and change their parameters. For tip number 3, I'm going to show you the layers panel, and you can just click the plus sign to add a new one, or you can swipe a layer over to the left side and duplicate it, which is an option I did a little bit later that will show you. These check boxes on the right just lets your layers be visible, or you can hide them. For me, my underpainting is hidden, so my underlayer where I sketched the drawing is underneath, and then I add on top of that the line art, which is my inking layer. And just between those two, I will put my color typically and just make sure it stays within the lines. And when I'm happy with it, on top of that layer, I move a shade and highlight layer. And so the cool thing is, if I make a mistake on any of them and I need to scrap it all together, I'm not gonna lose the work that I did on the previous layer. Some more shortcuts that you can use for your layers: push down and hold to drag it up or down. Swipe left in order to lock, duplicate, or delete. Tap on the end to have a small dialog that changes your image's colors and opacities. And also you can tap on it to get more things on the left that you can adjust. You can also use your hands and pinch with 2 fingers. You can go from the top layer to a bottom layer and pinch in order to merge the layers that you want to put together. And also, if you want to select more than one layer, you can tap on the first one and then swipe right for all the other ones that you want to add. It doesn't work with the left swipe, only the right. Tip number 4 is using the Lasso Tool, which is up here. And that just lets you select little portions of your drawing or the entire drawing and manipulate it one way or another. So right now I can select my entire potted plant, click on the little pointer or clicker, and that lets you now move it around. And you can also use your 2 fingers and kind of pinch the image to turn it around or rescale it. If you want something more uniform and you go back to the select button, make sure that underneath here you're under the uniform setting that lets you scale it and keep your proportions. Freedom obviously will kind of move it in different ways, and then you can also distort or warp your image. Gets a little crazy. Tip number 5 is how to do tricks with your hand. So you have shortcuts for 2 fingers. If you tap on the screen, it will undo. And if you tap on the screen with 3 fingers, it will redo. So that's how I usually undo my drawings really quickly. You can also use 3 fingers and swipe down on the screen and get this panel for copy paste. But that works best when you've actually selected something. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna select just the cactus, put on the clicker, and let's just go back to the uniform option in case I mess something up. And I'm gonna swipe those 3 fingers on the screen. Now I can copy and paste that image and it'll put it on a new layer for me. And I can just select it to move it around wherever I want. My next tip is for the color picker. And so for this one, we're gonna just grab a random brush. That square on the left is your color picker. Whenever you click on it, it will show you both the color that you currently have and the color on which you are placed. And that will let you know which color you want to grab. You can either click on a color like I did on the cactus to grab that green, or you can drag it over to the color that you want. Another way you can do this is by putting your finger on the picture and just holding it down until you see it appear and move it to the color that you want to select. And I don't do that a lot. It's faster for me to just click the little square on the left side. Tip number 7 is how you can create a palette like this one. Basically, you have these different view finders at the bottom, ways that you can see your color selection. But I like to have a palette set up so if I'm working on a specific drawing, I usually have a default of whatever it is that I'm doing. And I like to keep mine right below my disk view. So I will click the plus sign and create my own custom palette. So for this, let's just say we made one for this plant, and it gives me just this empty box. I'll set it as my default. And now whenever I go and select a color that's on the page, I can just tap in there and it will save that color for me. And one thing to note, which I don't remember if I mentioned it in the video, but when you have a color selected and see that orange top corner, well, it's green now, but whenever you have a color selected on the top right corner, if you push and hold on that, it'll go back to the previous color that you had. Tip number 8 is creating an automatic shape. So I'm going to try to draw a circle, start creating it, and just hold there for a second. It will adjust the shape for me. So if I want it to be a perfect circle though, I just put another finger on the screen and I change my shape to a circle. Up there it says edit shape, so whenever you let go before you click off screen anywhere, you have a chance to adjust that shape that you just created. And the same goes obviously for quadrilateral shapes, so squares and rectangles and such. So I'm just going to draw a box around our little potted plant and just hold there until it turns it into a rectangle. Tap the screen to make that rectangle into a perfect square. I click my edit shape button at the top, and now I can adjust it to be the way that I want. You just have to be careful here because it doesn't keep the lines perfectly vertical for you, so you just have to adjust accordingly. And another thing that I never mentioned with the color options is that from the circle on the top right corner, you can literally, when you have an enclosed shape, you can drag and drop the color to fill in the entire space. And I'm just going to move it below my entire image so it becomes now its background. Tip number 10 finally has to do with adjustments and actions, which are the top two buttons over here on the left. We've already used these other two, but your adjustments, basically I'm going to be on this yellow box color layer to show you what it does. So you have a bunch of actions that you can do, but you have to make sure you select your object first, and then when you click the it looks like a little wand. Basically you have first the opacity option, you have a Gaussian blur option, which is you can just make things blend into the background or disappear. I use that a lot for calligraphy, and I mean you can just test and click on every single one of these and just put your pencil on the screen and drag it left to right just to see what they do. But this is one that I use a lot. It's the hue saturation whenever I'm either dissatisfied with the color I chose or something, or just kind of want to see a better version of that color. So this is where all the adjustments can be made. And as the second part, the action side is where you can now actually add things to your canvas. So that first one, you can add text or picture. For your text, you will just click on it. It'll match the color from your picker. You have all sorts of fonts and design options that you can manipulate. I sometimes use it to add my reference photo and it'll be on the screen. For the canvas, this is just parameters of what you want your canvas to look like while you're working. I only use the canvas information whenever I go in here, and it's literally just to see how long I've been drawing. So I just go here and I check the statistics, and it lets me know the size of my canvas, how many strokes I had, and how long I'd been drawing. So for this one, it was 2 hours because it obviously includes this part of the tutorial as well. The share button though is also your export button or your save button, and you have all these options on how you want to share your image. So which format you want to export, PDF or JPEG or PNG or TIFF or PSD, which is Photoshop. And whenever I use that, I go back and I check, make sure that all my layers are selected before exporting. I'm not sure if I have to do that, but I always do just in case. And you have options to email it to yourself, Dropbox it, AirDrop if you have an Apple to Apple, product, but I don't. I use Android and I only have an iPad, so I have to use Dropbox for everything. And then for the play option now is where your time lapse, which is one of my favorite features here. It's automatically saved into the program to record as you go. So it records every stroke, and when you are ready or when you're done, you can actually just click on it and it'll show you everything from the moment you open that canvas, whatever strokes you made. So this is from a previous tutorial. I should say a previous version of this tutorial, which didn't save, which I had to nix and start again. But you don't need to know all that. But essentially it goes through the entire process of how I made my drawing. So if you follow me on Instagram, or even if you've seen one of my previous videos here on YouTube, this is how I share my time lapses. And you can just export it. It will let you export the full video, or it might let you do just like a 30 seconds if you wanted to put it like in your Instagram stories or something. And the same way, you could post it right away to whatever platform or just save it, which I usually just save it to my iPad. And one bonus tip in your actions is from the gallery. The way I have all of these organized into little folders is basically I turn them into stacks. So if you do the select option and you clicked all the images you wanted to put together, on the top it will say stack and you can click it there, or you can do what I just did and just grab an image and drag it on top of another image, and then it turns those two into their own folder. And one other really cool thing here that you can do is you can turn these two images into one. So if you wanted to share them, for example, as a PDF document, which sometimes I have to do for my client work, then you would select them both. And when you go to share under PDF, under your export options, it would actually turn them into a multi-page PDF document. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.